Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 89, Turning the Freaking Frog Straight. That's the name of the episode. I can't even say it with a straight face. It's been a little while since our last episode. Sorry about that. We've both been very busy. But we come back to this episode with a spicy topic. Maybe you might even consider it a zesty topic. We began talking a little bit about digging holes, kind of a mundane topic, but that's what I've been doing lately. And then we kick off the really interesting portion with a Mind Your Morals segment. It's been a few episodes since we did one. This Mind Your Morals focuses on the topic of homosexuality, a very controversial topic perhaps in our current culture, but we try to treat it somewhat respectfully, and we consider a hypothetical case that hopefully won't step on too many people's toes. The situation revolves around the discovery of a substance that could remove the same-sex attraction and restore the opposite-sex attraction. And so I present Daniel with a number of sub-scenarios regarding this hypothetical substance and try to tease out where the moral lines are in how we behave, how we respond to our own sexuality, what the benefits to society might be. We try to draw some analogs. None of it is perfect, but it does make for a very interesting moral discussion. So give it a listen. See if you agree with our takes. See if we missed anything. Hope you find it enlightening and enjoyable. So without further ado, begin the episode.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Daniel,
Bennett?
when was the last time you dug a hole?
The last time I dug a hole was when I told my wife she looked that dress made her butt look big. I don't I actually think this is not the answer, but I thought of this really fond memory I have of your old house backyard where you had the sand and you had a nozzle, very sandy backyard, and we would dig little holes with the hose and the little like water pressure, and we would like push the hose in, and sometimes it'd come up on it somewhere else, and it was really fun.
Right, I remember that.
But digging a hole, yeah, I can't say. Senior year after prom, my dad decided strategically after a night of partying to make me dig holes with a pothole digger. Is that what they're called?
Post-hole digger.
Post-hole digger, and like in that red Georgia clay.
Although a pothole digger, it would make sense that a tool exists like that given the number of potholes that are out there. Like, surely someone's got to be going around digging those potholes.
Yeah, the potholes are weird. So I remember digging those, and that was not fun. But like interesting tool, and it would hurt my hands if it didn't have gloves. It wouldn't. It was old and rusty, and I remember just going pretty much directly to red clay, and it was just almost like a punishment for having prom and staying out late. And yeah. Other than that, I'm sure I've dug some holes. I just, my hole digging like memory isn't like, I wasn't ready for that question, but I liked it.
Well, the reason I ask, just because I am similar to you, I haven't dug many holes in my life. I remember the sandy backyard hole digging, which was done with a water hose, which is maybe the easiest way you can possibly dig a hole.
It was playful.
And like I remember some trips to the beach, where you dig a hole and maybe you cover someone up with sand, or you dig a moat for your sandcastle. But all of these are childhood or like young adolescent memories. I can't remember a time where I dug a hole as an adult. And so I had to dig 9 holes yesterday. I'm planting some trees. And digging holes is hard. It's hard work.
It is.
I was using a shovel, not a post hole digger. But
And stepping on, like, putting the loop pointed in and stepping and doing the whole thing. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, if it's just dirt, that's one thing. And I can imagine it being, you know, it's just another task that you do. But my yard, I discovered very quickly, is extremely rocky. And so that changes the task of digging holes from, you know, just kind of a tiring chore to a real ordeal. Because, you know, if you have a rock in the ground and you try to shovel it, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's not going to be budged at all. Like, you can put your entire weight on the shovel and the rock isn't going to budge.
How big are these rocks? I thought you meant pebble-sized and just rocky.
There were some larger than a softball, like between softball and football size. That's how big some of them are.
Wow.
And then there were many that were larger than baseballs, and then just a constant amount that were golf ball sized, just everywhere.
Consistent golf ball sized rocks everywhere.
Yeah, right.
So and and they're lodged, and you have to break and wiggle them free so that you can dig.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and even a golf ball sized rock might not sound that bad. It might not sound that, oh yeah, I can pick that up. I could throw it really far. Like, I can
discard it easily.
I'm better than a golf ball sized rock. No, you're not. Not when you try to shovel into it. Like, it doesn't work. Like, golf ball sized rocks will ruin your attempt to dig a hole.
I'm a little surprised by that. I would have thought, like, you know, you hit it, but it's at an angle, and you kind of loosen it up and move on after like just an extra one or two jabs and it's loosened up. You're saying that's not the case.
The problem is it doesn't loosen up. That's the thing. Like, this is what I discovered. Look, I'm not a shoveler. This is my first real experience shoveling.
Shovel job.
But I think that I probably gained 2 generations worth of shoveler knowledge in this exercise. Like, way back in the day.
Was there any point when you stopped and looked up how to best shovel?
No, I didn't do that.
Technique involved.
I didn't do that.
I mean, it seems a straightforward task,
doesn't it?
You know,
it seems like you shouldn't need to research how to shovel.
Wait, I know. If I almost would resist doing that, even if I thought maybe there is some shoveling techniques. I'd go, but no, I'm too stubborn because that just feels emasculating to some degree.
I think so too.
It's just like, come on, you can't dig a hole. Like, you're a smart guy, and like.
So I didn't.
And I'm assuming these 9. What are we talking about? Like a foot circumference or whatever. If I put a ruler on the ground and spin it in a certain, like, it's just
probably about 2
feet.
feet.
Is that the size hole?
2 feet wide and
what do you?
About a foot and a half or 2 feet deep.
Obviously,
yeah.
You plant nine
trees
and
But like, I imagine back in our ancestors' days when shoveling was, you know, like the AI. AI today is the cutting edge, and you know, back then shoveling was the cutting edge, and it took them 2 generations to figure out how best to shovel. And I made that leap. That's how I'm going to characterize it. Without looking up anything, made the leap, and I invented.
What knowledge do you mean?
Well, I invented a technique that I am going to call upward shoveling. In order to assist, because, you know, as I mentioned, when you try to shovel into rocks and you're compressing them, the rocks are incompressible. They don't budge. They just get hardened into their location. And so upward shoveling was a technique that I came up with to, like, rake the shovel up the side of the hole. And the rocks are really weak to upwards pressure because there's not much dirt on top of them, and so they just kind of lift out of their spot in the ground. So you rake the shovel up the side of the hole, and it dislodges all of the rocks. You can scoop the rocks out, and then it's just dirt, and you can actually shovel into that more naturally. And so it took me 4 holes to figure out this strategy. But when I did, it didn't. I mean, it still was hard work and it took a long time, but I feel like
But you made consistent progress instead of always running into like.
The first hole I dug was shocking. Like, it shocked me. Like, wow, this is very difficult. Like, if I had to dig a grave or something. What was your original
estimate? Yeah, I want to hear your estimates at different points. You'll get out there, dig 9 holes. Right? It's going to take 2 hours. I'll probably be pretty sweaty, but I can do it in 2 hours. Did you have an estimate in your mind, and then you do your first hole, and you're like, I don't know if I'm getting them all done today. Like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was basically how it happened. Like, I thought, okay, I'll just dig as many holes as I need. And then after I dug the first one, I was like, I'm done for today. I'm going in.
One hole a day. In 9 weeks, I'll have a.
Yeah, I dug that first hole on like Friday evening, and because I was planning to just go ahead and dig them while it's cool, and just go ahead and get the holes
Friday
dug,
evening,
then go pick up the trees the next day.
Yeah.
But after I dug that one, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this again. And I went and
A time lapse
inside.
of you doing that would be amusing, right?
I mean, it
Watching.
probably took me, I don't know, 30 or 45 minutes for one hole. I mean, that's a long time for one hole,
Yes.
It turned out to be the biggest. It was the biggest hole that I dug, maybe perhaps slightly bigger than it needed to be, but it was also in the rockiest portion of my yard, which I wouldn't have been able to tell.
And you hadn't learned, yeah.
Right, and I hadn't learned, and it was just, oh man, yeah, it was awful. So just be warned that if you have to go dig holes, it's hard work. Now maybe the geology changes things. If the rocks weren't there, it would be a whole different ball game. But the rocks made it totally.
And what did
totally
you do?
different.
Like put in like a square, like go straight down and just have to plow through, and then start raking. Like obviously raking presupposes there is some you've dug deeply. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you have to get started before you can do the upward shoveling technique. The Bennett upward shoveling technique. BUST. Bust. The bust. Oh, that is perfect. You got to bust up the ground. That's so perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoveling is in my blood, apparently.
How are your hands today?
I got one blister, but pretty okay. I was wearing gloves, so I was all
I was
right.
about to say, were you wearing gloves? Did you buy a new shovel? Are there like
Yes.
how good? Like, what's the price range? What's the bad shovel and how bad is it versus the good shovel?
I just looked for the highest rated shovel on Amazon, and it was like $30 or something, so it was fine.
Okay.
And it worked. It seemed to work. It it wasn't poor quality. It didn't like jiggle around, or it didn't feel like it was close to breaking or anything.
Is it
seemed
one
fine.
solid piece, or is there like a wooden stick and a
It's
piece of
a
metal shovel in the
a
end?
steel shovel end, as you would expect, and then a fiberglass pole that connects into the shovel head. And I can see, like, in some of my upward shoveling moments when I was really levering, I had the shovel tip underneath a rock, and I was really putting force on the end of the pole to dislodge the rock. It would kind of bend a little bit, and I worry if I were to really put all my weight on it, you could risk cracking the fiberglass pole. I mean, you could do the same thing with a wooden pole as well.
Right.
So
right.
I wouldn't go hardcore into the upward shoveling technique with the shovel, but it got the job done.
Yeah. Well, do you feel if it's emasculating to not dig holes or not know how?
Dude, I'm so manly. I'm so manly right now. Like I just dug. I planted some trees.
Are they like saplings? How tall are they? Does it matter?
Yeah, they're saplings. I mean,
does the 12-inch tall cost less than the 18-inch tall one?
Definitely.
How does that? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well,
it's honestly, a learning process for me.
It was a learning process for me too. I went to like the nursery, and I was kind of surprised at the price variance of the trees. Like there's some little spruce trees, like Christmas tree type trees, and they were maybe 2.5 feet tall, 3 feet tall, something like that. And they were $125 each.
Whoa!
And I was like, wow, that's pretty expensive for these little trees. And then, I don't particularly think that they are beautiful trees. They're okay. They're evergreens. But then they had some other trees like aspens, which I really do find to be beautiful trees. They have the white kind of papery bark and golden yellow leaves in the fall, and they grow really tall. And those were only $30. And I was like, wow, that's weird. What a strange difference. In the trees, because with the aspen tree, in 5 years you're going to have something that looks like a tree, not a sapling, and it's going to have leaves and everything. And with the spruce, it only grows like 6 inches a year, so you're just going to have a slightly bigger sapling in 5 years.
Is the spruce going to provide like privacy?
Yes.
Like they put them together. Is that why they're desirable for like?
And that's why I bought them. Yeah, for.
You went with the nice one, or the expensive ones.
I bought a few. I bought 3 of those, and I bought 5 aspens, and I still have to go back. I have to get more. I'm not done yet. I have more holes to dig. Probably 6 more holes to dig.
So you're really just gonna have like trees all in your yard. This is interesting. How tall can these get?
They all can get very tall after a long time. The spruces can get big, but it takes many
I was gonna
years.
say the spruce, like, can they get to be like regular? Like, what's
Yeah, they
when I
can get
picture
to
a
be.
forest and they're 40 feet tall or whatever? I don't know.
I don't know if they
They're
can get quite that tall, but
25,
taller than the
25, 30.
house, taller than the house, and very
Yeah.
wide. And I got one poplar, and they get 60 feet tall. So they become really large trees, and then the aspens can get pretty big too.
If none of your neighbors plant trees, I'm making some assumptions about the neighborhood that I don't know, but like it's newer and not a lot of tree. Usually they clear the land, kind of thing. Is that right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
And so it would just be funny if you actually got really into planting lots of trees in your modest yard size, and you have like a little forest driving by your house. I mean, 9 trees is not like a few, like one tree in the front yard, like.
Well, there will be one tree in the front yard. I mean, the spruces are along the fence line to block sight lines, and the aspens
Yeah.
are kind of all close together, somewhat close together, to provide a little tree area. The poplar is in the middle of the backyard. It would be the big tree, and that's really all. So there will be lawn space in between all that. It's not all trees, and it'll be. I'll probably. I mean, it's going to be decades before it would actually feel like a forest, So
Yeah. Decades, and we'll be like old. Ugh, weird. We'll be old in decades.
yeah, we will. So I have that was just a little what's going on in my life, but I have a topic that I want to discuss with you today, and I guess as sort of a preface to that, I want to ask, how moral are you feeling today?
Not that moral, but ready
Okay.
to make some decisions while I'm feeling a little spicy, Or, yeah, is it mind your morals time?
It's time for Mind Your Morals. It's been a long time.
Ah!
It's been a long time since our last one, and I have a spicy one for you today. It's pretty spicy.
Oh, great! I didn't know that, so yeah, that's
All right.
yeah. I'm feeling spicy. Let's do it.
Okay, so the origin of homosexuality in humans is very controversial, as we know. That's been a talking point in our culture for probably 30, 40 years. Some people throughout this conversation have believed that people are, quote unquote, born gay, and that homosexuality is essentially a genetic state determined by nature. Some other people believe that it's a psychological disorder. Maybe it's developed due to childhood experience or trauma or some environmental factor. And then there are some people who believe it might be a chemical thing, that you consume this chemical and it could turn the freaking frogs gay. And so, maybe it could turn you gay too. But the origin of homosexuality isn't really what I want to talk about for this Mind Your Morals, because I don't know that we would be able to come to any sort of clarity on that issue. So we can put that aside, even though it may be very interesting. For this Mind Your Morals, we're going to focus on kind of the back end, maybe to use the term, it's a loaded term, but I'm going to use it anyway, cure. So many illnesses that we know of, whether they're mental or physical, or whether they're congenital or transmissible, they can be treated with medication. So antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs can treat, these mental behavioral conditions. And so the premise of this Mind Your Morals is that a substance is discovered that is a quote-unquote anti-gay drug. Basically, in effect, it removes the same-sex attraction and restores an opposite-sex attraction.
Okay.
And so for the first portion of this Mind Your Morals, I've got a scenario to present to you. So let's say that the discovery and research of this drug, this compound, was done by one man, a single man, in secret, and he is the only person who has the sample of this drug and all of the supporting documentation. Now, one day, he's out in the North Carolina wilderness, enjoying nature, and he's struck with a heart attack. Now, you happen to also be out on this fine day enjoying the North Carolina wilderness, and you are passing by him right when he's having the heart attack. You rush over to help him, but it's obvious he's not going to make it. He's on his last legs here. And with his last minutes of life, as he's clutching his chest and breathing heavily. He explains to you the drug that he has and its effect. He hands you the briefcase and the documents and everything. And he managed.
This is it. It's all in here.
It's everything is here. This is it. No one else knows about this. You're the only one who knows about it. And he manages to convince you in his last minutes that this drug is real. And he pleads for you to take it to a particular set of drug companies and agencies for further research and development. And so the moral question here is it moral for you to do what he asks?
My knee jerk is sure, yes. There's honoring his, like a few thoughts popped in my head. One is the smallest being, it's a man's dying wish, and he's not asking me to do something immoral. It's just to basically hand over his work. Mm-hmm. I guess you could, depending on your position and stance, just say like, I disagree fundamentally with the premise of this work, and therefore I won't pass it along, and I will prevent it from, the damage that it could do. Mm-hmm. But I would say two thoughts I have is that like a healthy society, I think we want to encourage healthy behaviors in a society, and I think reproduction begets a healthy society. And so I think that's one angle I'm thinking is like, mm-hmm. you want to promote heterosexual reproduction. Well, that's the only kind of, you should just want to promote reproduction. Sure. So that is by extension promoting heterosexual behavior in that regard. And the other thing is there are homosexual people who do not want to be attracted to the same sex. That have said, mm-hmm. there's plenty that say, for various reasons, religious ones, social ones, and personal ones, sure. saying if I could press a button and not have this, I would. Right. So, and then you could get into why do they feel that way? Is it because of, but just given that clearly exists, mm-hmm. So basically there's a desire for it. It won't. You could make an argument that it could harm society in that could create and more of like an anti-gay push, but like is being pro-heterosexual and is that anti-gay? Is being like pro-women being anti-male? Like mm-hmm. I don't think so inherently. So. So I would definitely. So I'm just kind of throwing out a bunch of thoughts, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely like handing the briefcase over. I mean, I would pause and consider like this is something. The reason I give anything pause is you hand me something powerful, and say it's your duty to pass this powerful thing along, and what you're presenting is like powerful and mm-hmm. unique and new and has not happened and I'm like, wow, I have the power in my hands, and when I have power, I want to pause just to make sure I'm wielding power responsibly. But I've talked it out. My knee jerk, based on the things I'm telling you, is like, yeah, I do. I move forward.
One thing that you said at the beginning is that he's not asking you to do anything immoral, and you revealed, right there that you don't think there's anything wrong with the existence of an anti-gay drug. But presumably, there are some people who might think that in and of itself is a bad thing. Like, yes, imagine instead that he had some kind of extremely transmissible, deadly virus, like Ebola, COVID-20, or whatever, and he needed you to take it to some weapons research facility. Like, that might cause
I might feel different if it was some... Right, like weapon of mass destruction kind of thing, or like the airborne pathogen that could hurt people. I'm like, I don't know.
The act that he's asking you to do, grab this briefcase with your hands, drive or walk to a location and hand it to other people. Yeah, there's no immoral act in those simple physical, actions, but.
Mafia hire like those kind of men all the time, and I'd say that's immoral, right? Like transporting the drugs,
right? Exactly, right.
It's just I'm just driving. I'm not doing it. It's like yes, you're part of the machine,
right? So there's more going on than just the crude notions of moving this thing from one place to the other, and it seems like, which is totally fine, and you reasoned it out that your knee jerk kind of reaction is that both the physical acts that you would have to take and the larger meaning of those physical acts, seem to be moral to you thus far, which is
Yeah, well,
which is
I
fun.
just think there's clearly people who are gay that don't want to be gay.
Right, and so this would be filling some niche
right
there. Okay, yeah, totally reasonable.
and really quick, like it's not even like a debate because I don't know enough, but like the nature versus nurture argument, we're saying it turns out there's a pill that can do this. That's the thought experiment. That's the given.
Exactly.
So-
Regardless of if it's nature or nurture, it doesn't matter. I mean, like you can make an argument that depression or anxiety or something else is nature or nurture. Maybe we don't fully know, but the fact remains that there are medications that can treat those conditions, and this is the same thing. So we're intentionally tabling the origin story, and just thinking about this hypothetical. And I do have
I think the strong pro-gay advocate would be concerned about how this could now like create a new wave of anti-gay. I could see the pathway.
So
but,
I think if we're going to dive in on kind of the opposite side of the argument, I'm at least right now finding it difficult to understand how this could create any additional anti-gay sentiment. But what I would think that the strong homosexual, gay pride proponent would say would be that by making this drug widely available, you're likely eliminating a valuable subset of our culture and society. Like there's this identity that people have that we're going to be eliminating. All of this valuable like creativity and flamboyance and just diversity is our strength, and we're eliminating diversity by removing this type of behavior from our general culture.
And that starts to unearth like I don't quite get it. Like what is gay, and I mean this, like what is gay identity other than liking the same sex? I don't fully I understand there is a culture around it, and we know exactly what we mean when we say it's like effeminate, flamboyant,
liking scented candles and multi-way stretch clothing, and what other things do you like?
Sensibility with decor.
Right. Poetry.
So, yeah. Well, that's the thing. We seem to want to. We have this fixation as a society. It could actually free us from some things. Like I don't like labeling things as like I've heard this term like man coded or male or female coded, right?
Yeah, right.
Something like polka dots is female coded, and it seems absurd. It's just literally like a pattern with dots is like because why? I don't know. It's round and round equals soft. And
same with like
soft.
pink and blue, right? Pink and blue.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing inherently male or female coded, but they're socially, and so when gay people have a social construction, but like I don't understand why that social construction, if you like behaving, talking a certain way, hanging out, and like what's stopping from you, and leaning into the arts and the things like that, and the dance, and is that actually deeply associated with your attraction toward the same sex? I don't fully. I mean, I get it's something intertwined. Obviously, these cultures emerge, and I don't fully understand it. I'm just readily saying I don't understand it, but certainly just saying who you're attracted to, taking a pill that can change that, like that's an interesting thought experiment, not inherently. Let's just not inherently. I mean, if you were to like go acutely and say there was a love pill that will make you fall in love with one person or make you fall out of love with them, do I find that inherently? At least for the thought experiment, I'm like, oh man, it could get dicey. And so saying the whole half of the population, if I'm shouldn't I say that's a bit dicier? Then I don't know.
I think a love potion or love pill is perhaps different than this attraction.
Right?
This is same-sex attraction. There's something different.
Yeah, it's attraction
there, right?
versus the exercising my will of like I want you to like me, and you might not, I'm taking away your choice to like me or not.
Right.
Versus just like a same-sex attraction and opposite-sex attraction is just like, I don't know how to finish the thought really. It's just it's different.
It's a different thing, right?
Liking a person
Like you could if you were living on a deserted island, totally alone with no other human beings, you could take this medication. It would only change you, right? But it would have an effect. Whereas if you were totally alone, living on a deserted island, and you took the love potion, it would have no effect because there's no one else to, there's no one else to affect. It's just you.
Would it change you? What would it change? What would
Well,
it
I mean,
change?
presumably your thoughts, when you're thinking about other people, you're not gonna, you're not gonna have a dream at night where you're dreaming of, some hunky firefighter or whatever.
Yeah.
You're gonna.
So your wet dreams change a little bit. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, your attraction fundamentally would change after
Yeah.
taking this, and so. I do have a mini aside, if you'll indulge me. Does a dying wish have any more moral gravity than just a normal not dying request? Like you mentioned that you would, you would carry out this request of this scientist or inventor or whatever.
Yeah.
At least in part because he was dying. It was a dying request. But
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
Why does that make a difference?
I guess in a technical sense it doesn't, but when someone is dying and the wish they're gonna make is, I would think, like there's weight behind it. So it's on their end that when they have one last thing to declare, that it's significant,
Right.
and that significance, and then they don't have any chance to make the case for it again. So it's their last declaration into the world, and so I do take that a little more seriously. The thing itself, the actual, like if for instance, if they asked me to do something immoral, but it was their dying wish, and I found it just definitely immoral, that doesn't win it over into possibly
Sure.
moral territory. But if it's gray area, that weight could. It's just that I like, or at least in theory, if you say someone's dying wish, what you're communicating is literally that, like, they have one last thing to put out there, and this is it. And we should just respond accordingly. That has some reverence around it, or at least I have some reverence toward. If they have one thing to leave the world that they wish, and I can make it happen, I'm going to take that more seriously than just someone going, I wish this would happen, or please do this. For sure.
Okay, interesting.
Do you agree with that?
I'm not totally sure. I mean, practically, I agree with it. If someone, I guess I have this innate reaction that if someone makes a dying request to me and it doesn't go against my principles and it's achievable for me, then I will do it. Maybe.
That's what I mean.
Well, look, let me
ahead.
finish. I have two potential reasons for why I might carry through with this request. One is because if they've utilized their last moments to give me this request, presumably they've thought about it very deeply, have a very strong intuition that this is the right thing to do. And so I can take their word for it, essentially, and accomplish this task without thinking about it too much on my own. I can just kind of take for granted that they've done the effort because they're using this important moment to convey their request. Now, maybe there's some risk involved in that, but that's at least your initial response. And the second reason is that, kind of more along the lines that you were saying, we should have reverence for the lives of our fellow human beings, again, with a total stranger, it's difficult because you don't know anything about them. But if it was a friend or family member, then you will want to honor their memory and make some last memorial of their life on Earth. And by accomplishing this request, you might do something like that.
It's that, but I also want to say the reverence comes from, like, my belief that it's importance distilled. Like, if you told me what are some wishes you have or things I might declare, I would. But if you told me, give me your dying wish, I would cut through a lot of things that are important and go, they're important, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not done. And so when I say whatever it is, if I've landed firmly on a dying wish, that means, like, that is the most important thing to Daniel distilled. Like, it's the most pure form of it. And so that, I would like to think, that is significant.
Yeah.
In addition to the things you said about reverence. And that's what I meant. My reverence is baked in with the assumption that, like, the things you alluded to first is that they've considered this deeply for a while, and all that deep consideration is compounded by the fact that it's, like, the thing that made its way to the top. You get one dying wish, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along. I think this one is kind of a foregone conclusion since based on what we've talked about before. But let's assume that whether by your action or otherwise, the companies now have attained the sample and the documentation. They've done the research. All of it's real. Now, would it be moral for them to actually produce a drug, an anti-gay drug, out of this substance and develop and sell it? Like, is it like now it's not just the existence of this chemical, but now it's the widespread distribution. Maybe it'll be in pharmacies or available for prescription or whatever. Is that okay to put that drug out into society?
I am thinking that through. I'm trying to think of both sides of the argument before knowing it's going to amplify pressures for people to take it that maybe don't want to. There's a market, and there are people that want to take it, and I don't want to make too many assumptions about. But if people of their own free will want to take it, and there's a market for it, like, then that doesn't make it moral. By the way, it's like, there's a market for drugs if they.
Sure.
But I would say for recreational drugs that are dangerous and things, and there's some it's like, and part of me wants to go to each their own, but the reason I give pause is if you just release these drugs and go, they take it because they want to take it, but then you've taken it and bad things can happen to society. So you have to go, what are the bad societal, what are the ramifications of this?
Yep,
and to me, it's where it gets dicey is people that are like, enjoy being gay and then will experience pressure from their community or their parents to take it, and they don't want to take it, and that doesn't sit right with me. And the kid who is stressed about it, this is what even a little more gray. Because that seems wrong to me, at least just saying it out loud. That just seems wrong. The person's like, I don't want to take this, but I'll do it just to shut everyone up. Well, you're still doing it of your own free will, and you could just say they're weak and should say no. But I don't like that scenario. There's potentially another scenario where the confused kid all the way around is just taking it, or parents are just kind of giving it to kids as part of their multivitamin now infused with anti-gay, whatever. Yeah. Make sure your kid and
vitamin B straight. Yeah. That's what we would call it.
It's Flintstones now with vitamin B straight, but this starts to get a little wonky to me too. It's like, well, and then also with creating not that master race. I'm not trying to go too extreme with it, but you're starting to just say I want my kid to be this way or this way and this way. And
how would you contrast that thought? So a lot of your reasons there, make some amount of sense. But let's just imagine that instead of the disorder, however you want to characterize it, being homosexuality, then instead it was depression or anxiety or something, and the person didn't want to take their meds. Is it okay for a family member or friends or whatever to pressure them, whether gently or less gently, to take their meds?
I guess that brings to the surface the disorder categorization, because
Well, in that case, another thing that you said was, what if the person enjoys being gay? And it made me wonder, what does it mean to enjoy?
Yeah, I guess that is a weird
being gay. Because I was flipping it and thinking, do I enjoy,
do you enjoy being straight?
Being straight, no, I just am, and that's I'm extremely straight, and I guess I enjoy it.
I love it, but I just am.
I do it effortlessly without trying.
Yeah, I'm effortlessly straight, and I love it, but no. Do I love being straight?
But I think what does a person enjoy about? I'm speculating here, but what would a person enjoy about being gay? I think it might be that minority status, right? The ability to stand out from the norm.
Are you taking the sexual charged energy off the table? Because you're going to have it. It's just going to be toward, the opposite sex. You're still going to have the thrill of sex.
Of course you would.
And all the other things.
You're talking about if you took this drug.
In this scenario. Yes,
yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, it would
So
be
it's
exactly
not
the same.
about the thrill of, it's
No,
not the
no, no, no.
energy, the like horny energy or
No.
whatever you want to call it. It's
Not
like,
at all.
'cause that's all
It's-
there.
It's
Okay.
simply the target of that horny energy.
If you're a sensual person or not a sensual person, that
that would
is
not
not
change.
affected. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So what's your enjoyment of it? It's
Right, and even-
the parades and the
Well,
the
that's what I'm
flags
saying.
and stuff. It's
The
like
minority
the cultural-
status, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the thing. It's the ability to stand out and be different. Because presumably, maybe you're gay and you really have a genuine fondness for the same sex and you find them physically attractive and you form bonds or whatever. But presumably after taking this medication, you would still have the capability for all of those things. It would just be with the opposite sex instead.
Let me ask you this: is there another? Well, did I let you finish that thought? Sorry, I was jumping on.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The community is really important, and there is clearly a gay community. And but that would not. You would not have. It would not have to dissipate. The friends you have obviously wouldn't
Sure.
have to dissipate.
Right.
I
mean,
the
and even the interests, that we've attributed to homosexuality, maybe it's
Right.
too far of a stereotype, but there seems to be at least some linkage between the things you mentioned earlier, like scented candles and
Like,
all of that stuff,
theater, like dance. Those
Right,
are
right.
men.
But
Men
there's-
who are in dance theater are primarily gay. Like it's like
Right.
inverse the averages and just
but,
inverse it.
but there's nothing about this medication that would inherently change your interest in such things. Like it wouldn't. Like that's not what it does. It just changes the target of your attraction. And so I'm finding it difficult to take as a justification for not taking the drug or not distributing the drug, that it might that someone might enjoy being gay and be pressured into taking it, because I don't understand how that enjoyment could be eliminated totally by taking this drug. Exactly.
That's pretty convincing. I guess that. What about those who are already in long-term partnerships and they love their
that's a
partner?
good question.
And that's like, so that's where and they don't want to take it, and I guess they don't have to in this drug. Because let's say I was on the other end. I'm like, this needs to be given to everyone immediately. It does need to be in the vitamins. Let's say I was all over that. And find that, but like the people currently enjoying long partnerships, I don't want them to feel like it might be lonely. Like all of a sudden that the erasure of their so all their friends that are gay take it, and are they still hanging? Like what does that do? I imagine it would do something to the relational aspect. It'd be interesting to unearth what exactly, but
I mean, I guess it depends on the type of relationship we're talking about. Yeah, like if it is a monogamous same-sex relationship, then obviously one or both of them taking this drug would change the nature of that relationship. If it's
let's say they didn't take it and all their friends did.
I don't see how would that make a difference.
If they're in a monogamous one and if they were friends for reasons other than
Right. That's what I'm saying. If this is some kind of
Yeah.
orgy situation, swinger thing, then obviously that's going to have some effect, and you might make a strong make a strong argument that this would actually be beneficial in that case. But if this is as close to a normal heterosexual relationship as you can get, but being homosexual, then obviously it would have strong effects on that relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that is, that's reasonable. But that doesn't, I mean, I guess the original question is it okay for this drug to go to market?
Go back to that question. I guess I'm having a hard time, I'm having a hard time for the, my mind goes to, I don't know. I guess I could. The concern being that the minority status becomes ultra minority status potentially. You see that on the wall. And is it true that minority status are under greater threat of whatever, insert violence or oppressive, like whatever. And if does it put those people at greater risks? And being, the disdain, why haven't you taken it? If the culture, if those, not just that are neutral, but those that like have a distaste or a disgust toward homosexuality, if they feel really emboldened as the culture becomes mostly straight, like, because I would say culturally right now, it's mixed, but in terms of you don't openly, like, those that are like disgusted don't talk about it all. There's a taboo around it, and so they could be emboldened, and that could elevate violence. But I'm not prepared to make that case other than to say I don't like the idea of risking anyone and endangering anyone, and I could see that playing out, but I don't know.
I guess you would have to ask in that case, do the, whatever X number of people there are who are gay and don't want to be, right, and who struggle with it and would rather not face the problem, does the pain and suffering that they go through outweigh the risk of this, inflamed discrimination against what would be an ultra minority, right? I guess that's how you would have to ethically weigh it, right? Is
yes,
by putting this on the market, are you doing greater benefit or greater harm?
And I'd like to think you could still do things to dissuade, like we should, our like rules against, or laws against violence should be harsh, severe, and swift, and to be braced for something like that in the event.
I mean, I would say, stepping outside of our hypothetical and into the real world a little bit, like, we've been struggling with the question of homosexuality for decades, like I mentioned, and the proportion of people identifying as gay has skyrocketed in the last decade or so. And so you might say that the ultra minority status that we're proposing in this hypothetical is similar to the real world status that existed maybe in the 80s or the 90s. How bad was it back then? I guess you could make different arguments for how bad it was back then, but it wasn't anything that destroyed our society, obviously, since we're still here.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'm not worried about the greater society in this case. I am emphasizing the dispossessed. I am emphasizing that in this case, because I guess that I can't help but think about that, because we are talking about a large minority status currently, but a minority status. So
let's step forward. Okay. I presume that you at least fall at least a little on the end of this being okay to push to market. Maybe you have some hang-ups that aren't fully examined, but let's just assume that this drug is delivered to market, and it's a pill. It's a pill. It's in pill form, and only a single dose is required. You take it once, and voila, you're now heterosexual in your orientation. The cost to manufacture is low, just a couple of dollars per pill. And so the question here is, how expensive should the drug be to purchase? So I've got a few subcategories. So let's just start right off.
Is this a moral question?
Yes. It is, right? Okay. Like, the pricing of things is potentially moral.
Accessibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just start off. Should it be free? And, the one reason why it perhaps should be free is because the effect is so beneficial to society. So do you have any moral qualms with this this
I don't have a moral qualm with making it free. Anytime you say it should be free, I'm like, do you mean the society says we value this thing enough that we use all of our taxes and whatnot to support it?
Yes, exactly. So, think about it. There's a lot of instances where birth control is free, for example.
Right. I don't know that anything should be free, but I get it. I think I'm in the spirit, not to get too contrarian. I'm not trying to be contrarian. I'm just sorting it out. Like, I think to myself, like, the body, we are a giant body as a society, and we can put our pot of money through taxation to work. And I'd be for instance, free internet for everyone. Free being not actually free, and there's nothing free, but yeah, if there was some voting to say that's gonna be part of our, I would entertain that. And then it becomes one of our.
We should talk about that on another podcast. Your stance that internet should be quote unquote
But I don't
free.
actually mean it should be. I'm not sitting here saying it's a.
I
like,
understand what you mean.
I'm not
You
mad that it's not, but I'd be for that idea
Yeah, we
potentially.
should talk about that
Like
sometime.
go ahead and just do it because it's almost like cell phone companies charging minutes for so long or per text. It's like just cut it out and give a flat rate, and then like internet. What does internet cost? Like they're all just like just. It's frustrating. Just like, can we just make this a public service? So to bring it back to the pill,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it being free if that's like if collectively that's what we decide. Do I think it's one of the things worth investing in to make free? No,
Yeah.
I
You
don't. I don't think it's just like to actively pursue that. And nah, I mean it's a few. I'm assuming they're not going to upcharge too terribly much, so it's going to be accessible for. Even if they charge 10 times that you really want to.
Let me try to make a case. I think I'm agreeing with you, but let me try to make the case. Like the reason that I propose was because its effect would be so beneficial to society, and you already mentioned that there are some large number of people struggling with homosexuality who would rather not have that struggle, and by making this free and totally accessible, you're gonna eliminate all of that struggle and strife and suffering, and it's a single dose, no side effects that we've discussed thus far. So presumably, it's a magical
Right.
relief from some sort of disorder, and whether you consider it to be an innate disorder, like we postulated that some people believe, or it's just the effect is that this is an abnormal behavior, and thus you're going to get some slings and arrows from people who are discriminatory or who don't understand how different you are, whatever. All of that you're going to be eliminating. All of the cultural backlash against LGBT stuff and the pride parades and all the corporate rainbows and all of that stuff that we've heard so much about, and most of us, I'm sure, have gotten tired of, would be either eliminated or greatly lessened. And that it would just reduce societal friction by a substantial amount. And do you think that for this low cost would be worth it? I mean, this would cost. I mean, when you talk about nothing is free and the taxpayers presumably are footing the bill. I mean, this thing costs a couple dollars a pill. One moderately wealthy businessman could buy an anti-gay pill for everyone in the United States. So this isn't something that's gonna bankrupt the taxpayer.
Right. It just doesn't fall into the moral imperative zone quite there for me. Like, you could make that case, and the lessening the friction is nice. It also did occur to me, if I'm kind of that under the assumption when we say homosexuality, we're talking about same-sex attraction, and all the other stuff is socially constructed stuff. It did occur to me we would learn in this thought experiment if it played out, and basically the gay community was so small that they didn't have an influence, that what if there was an impact on, I don't know, the arts obviously comes to mind, and that degree of it's just an interesting thought. We would learn that. But I think I'm still going to operate for the sake of experiment that this is truly just same-sex attraction, and that's what it means. It just doesn't quite cross into moral imperative category. You make a case and it's appealing, but I just don't. There's lots of beneficial things that you could just. I would get exhausted if I started listing all the things and I had this giant list. I'd say, look, it's not like we got to start voting in the will of the people. I don't care enough to have my own stance of like I said that about internet, but I'm not protesting on the streets or something. I'd go sign a petition because I find I would benefit a lot from that. And this feels like it. My guess is it's going to be so deeply accessible anyway.
Well, what if
so? Then we're
Let's just imagine, just for the sake of
toothpaste.
comparison.
Give everyone toothpaste. It's cheap. It's easy to produce. I don't know. It's good for you. It keeps dental. It actually has heart health links. I don't know.
But toothpaste is something that you require a never-ending supply of.
I guess you're right. But let me come up with a different.
You pay $4 or $5 for it at the grocery store. But let's imagine that this was, a similarly miraculous antidepressant, and you could cure depression. With no side effects for everyone with one dose. Would that be worth doing this for?
That does become, yes, that, or at least I think so. A miraculous antidepressant, a society full of lack of depressed people. I think would be. I think that impact of no gay people versus no depressed people, I think the no depressed people you'd see a wild difference. And I think with no gay people, you'd see, I don't know, but my inclination is that it wouldn't be as wild.
I think I agree.
difference.
It wouldn't be as significant, but I think that it would still be significant, and that's why I'm wondering. You say it's not a moral,
Is it
imperative,
significant?
so
is it significant because you're solving tension within a culture war, or is it more, or we just have more babies?
I mean, you could put the culture war totally aside, and I think there would still be massive societal benefit. Like, I mean, you started off our discussion saying you should, that we should collectively encourage reproduction.
Yeah.
I personally think reproduction isn't exactly the thing we should be pursuing as much as functional family units, right?
Yeah,
Which often goes hand in hand with reproduction. But having that functional family unit is what stabilizes society, and that it prevents people from acting out and becoming criminals and behaving in ways that are disordered and damaging to everyone. And so I think that also, let's just acknowledge that depression is kind of a murky issue, and it has a lot of strings attached to everything else. And so, a miracle cure for depression is pretty fanciful. But one could argue that homosexuality, in some portion, is the root cause of some depression in some cases, right? Like whatever the causal pathway for that may be, the difficulty faced by some of these people who perhaps are gay but don't want to be, that could result in depression. And
there's definitely an overlap with gay and depressed.
And to speak again to perhaps why one might argue for this being free, the rates of self-harm, suicidal attempt, and suicide, actual completion is higher for gay people than it is for straight people. And so you might argue that with this being accessible, again, you're eliminating
saving
all of that.
lives.
Right.
You're saving lives. I don't fully understand that. Are you saving like other societal benefits, functional home, but gay people aren't committing crimes at high. Well, I actually don't know. I mean, crimes at higher rates and stuff. It's just at least not. I don't know. Are they committing crimes at higher rates and things like that? And that's going to have. But again, it's like, if they just change their attraction, why would they stop robbing homes? Let's say they were robbing homes at disproportionate rates. I don't think they are, but let's just say they were. I don't think it would change anything. Those people are still robbing homes.
Think about it this way. Perhaps being in that minority status, feeling like you're on the outs, the fringe of society, you're not accepted. Maybe you should be an outcast anyway. That's just your identity, to be an outcast, and that I could see that pushing someone into societal behavior that is frowned upon, like criminal activity.
I think that being okay, I'll go with you here. That I think being like not on the inside, when you're left out, or I guess I'm saying minority status, when you're not, you feel a little left out, and then that can put a chip on your shoulder, and that chip. What is the cost of that chip? Because you're removing that chip now. Yeah, like I don't know what the cost of that chip is. And I also don't know, like you said, the murky area of depression, but I imagine people call off sick for work, or relationships suffer, and are destroyed frequently. Like marriages collapse, kids don't reach their potential early on. Like I just think it would be massively different. Now, I don't know how the chip on the shoulder, how deep it is and to what degree but that chip out of that chip on your shoulder, the whole culture has emerged, you know? So that's an interesting idea. And removing the chip, it's just like, all right, now it's not that you can't when you're creating culture, it seems like it's a better starting place for culture when it's not fueled by that frustration or that outsider status. It seems like it'd be better if it were fueled by interests and passions and, overlapping healthy things, not overlapping trauma bonding, but overlapping like joyful things. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's try to put a ending point on this discussion of cost. So let's just imagine that this guy's dying wish. You have the reins. You take it to the company, and essentially you're in the position to set the price for this drug. If it's not free, then what should the price be? Should it be free, or should it be the same cost as like an anti-anxiety medication, or should it be extremely expensive like some kind of cancer medication or something because it's a one-time use?
Can you just tell me it cost $1 to produce for the thought experiment?
Yeah, sure. It costs $1.
Okay. And what do I think it should cost?
Yeah.
I'll go as far as $2.
Okay, so
You can
some
double
some
your-
moderate
you can-
profit. So you're thinking totally on the market end, like
I am
supply, demand,
That's
all
that's
that
why I
stuff.
asked if it was moral. It's just like
right.
I
All the
think
research and development is done, so there's no upkeep or maintenance costs. So
they decide
really,
to charge $5. I'm not gonna shout from the rooftops how immoral it is. But if they're charging $500, I just go, well, that's just like any
Profiteering,
Come on,
yeah.
come on, yeah. So so yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's. I want to think about this. So far, we've been discussing this as if there are no side effects involved with the drug, and all of your answers have been relatively consistent. It's okay for this drug to exist. It's more or less okay for it to be distributed, and people should be able to purchase it. But do any of your answers change if, for example, there's a side effect that the drug induces where it makes you a kleptomaniac? It gives you an urge to be a kleptomaniac, which is an urge to steal.
Yeah.
Now it's possible to resist the urge, but it just never goes away, and it's just a constant low to medium level urge to steal things. Does that change any of your answers?
At least it changes the way I think about. Now we have this mystery drug that I had sorted out. Like I didn't understand the mechanisms and I didn't need to, but I knew what it did. And now you're telling me, and even if you're saying it's just kleptomania, like it makes me think about ideas of identity. It's tough. It's tough for me to think about identity in isolation. Like, okay, it makes you straight and want to steal. And like, yeah, like now, like, I was entertaining the idea of it being in Flintstone vitamins, or at least you can see it does seem to change. Like here's an image I don't like. People are going to take their Holy Communion, but like also like maybe at the youth church they're making them all line up and take the anti-gay pill. There's something like about that's not a pleasant thought. Like it feels, the visual at least is cultish sounding to me. And I could see that happening in all religions that are like that, believe homosexuality is a sin. Like, okay, so that's happening, and now they're lining up and they're taking this just to be safe, because if you're already straight, no effect. Oh, by the way, is that if kleptomania? If you take this pill, like it would do that even if you were already predisposed to being straight and you took it?
That's a good question. I didn't consider that. No, let's say that only if it has its primary method of effect. So only if you're already gay and it fixes the gay problem.
Okay. And it will do that, or there's a 10% chance, or
no,
1%?
it definitely will give you the side effect. Okay. The side effect intensity ranges from, just a intrusive thought once every now and then to, a stronger urge. It can always be resisted. It's never overpowering, but it's always kind of there.
Man, and you multiply that by the potentially like millions of people, potentially I guess millions of people, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
That now have urges to steal. Like how many does that result into stealing, and how much harm does that cause on society? So at least it's changing some of my computational, like I'm trying to think big picture about, I guess I'm thinking with a utilitarian moral philosophy in this case of like what's the impact on society, and trying to do the math on how much homosexuality harms society and how much kleptomania, or at least the urge to like, and how much that would be realized. And so I guess I would break and be like, we need to have trials and see I'd feel more comfortable having to get some numbers. Like you can't put this out to mass production. We need to do some trial studies and see how many are actually going out and stealing, and like getting numbers that then help me calculate. Weird calculation, but yeah.
All right, let's say, that's okay if you can't make a total yes or no decision, but I've got a few other side effects to pitch to you. Yeah. And just tell me relatively how you feel about them. So what if, all right, put the kleptomania aside, what if instead you take the drug and it just totally removes all sexual attraction? So it it removes your homosexual sexual attraction, but now you're not sexually attracted. It's essentially an asexuality pill.
Yeah, that feels
Is that
strange. It feels like it changes the equation because
Yeah,
it
right.
feels like that the energy behind that fuels a lot of our like motivations. It might be sexual in nature. I know it's a pretty provocative thing to say, but like I think the world can be run on that. Like that the driving force to procreate is like so it is so pervasive, and like removing it, I don't know what you're doing in society. So I actually feel pretty strongly about like if
Mr.
that button
Freud,
exists.
Daniel Freud?
It is. I'm kind of leaning that direction. Is that like I find that to be likely to be so plausible that if there was a button, if I had something to gain of pressing a button and losing all of my sexual energy, I would be very wary of pressing that. I'd be scared because I just like, who am I? You take that away. So I guess it is like my energy is intertwined with like who I am to some degree. I think so. I don't like all of a sudden you've gone into like no category for me. Like there probably are pills that just basically is it almost like a chemical castration or something. Like nope, not from.
I didn't want to cash it in that sort of extreme way because I think there are other harmful side effects of those current drugs. But
yeah.
If you
safe chemical castration,
if you buy the proposition that homosexuality causes some sort of strife or suffering or whatever, then presumably this would also eliminate that strife. Maybe it doesn't get you to be totally accepted and normal and able to, achieve the family unit and reproduction, all the things that we talked about as being benefits of
but the strife goes
heterosexuality.
away. Yeah,
But it's some middle ground, maybe some slightly better middle ground, maybe. I don't know. I had a hard time summing up this one too.
But taking away that energy, I don't know what the hole is going to be filled, and so we don't know what with like your energy is part of like that's part of your identity. I don't know to what extent, but like it's part of like calculated into getting out of bed in the morning, and it's just part of it. I don't know to what extent, man. I don't know, but I believe it's part of it, and so I don't know.
Okay.
It's just.
All right. What if the side effect, instead of removing all sexual attraction, it ramped up the opposite sex attraction? So you go from being gay to being super straight. You're very attracted to the point where monogamy is difficult to maintain. Right. Like it's now it's a struggle to
That's an interesting
remain within the
why?
bonds of your heterosexual relationship.
That is funny. Why not? Why couldn't you just like be with someone else who matches that energy and just go at it like rabbits, kind of thing? Like you're saying though, it's just so overwhelming that
for whatever reason,
you just see.
for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it just makes it really difficult to stay
Okay.
with one person.
I mean, it seems less on this scale. It worries me significantly less than the asexual.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
effect. That's my knee jerk. I think when I start thinking through a bunch of promiscuous people and how bad that is for society.
That sounds way worse than just someone not engaging.
I know. I guess
in
I guess I should switch gears here. I was thinking about the individual who's asexual and kind of has no like maybe their motivations have fundamentally shifted and they're maybe depressed.
I'm finding it
know.
hard to buy your argument there. I mean, throughout history, there have been monks and priests and nuns and the people who take vows of celibacy. And I understand that taking a vow of celibacy isn't the same as removing your attraction or your sexual attraction, but they've still been able to be productive members
I've never
of society.
had this thought before, but I would say there's a sexual thrill in vowing for celibacy, like that it's significant because you have the energy and you are you're giving it over to the Lord, and that is like that you now.
Oh, it's the Dragon Ball like condensing of the horny energy so that you can launch beams of light.
And look how noble you are. Look how noble you are. It's
Yeah.
like, and I'm going to use that and I'm going to filter it into. And I think I think that they're getting horny, like taking a sip of water, or like, looking at a waterfall, and like, yeah, I mean it. I'm not kidding. I'm a little bit silly sounding, but I think I mean it. Like they learn to like push it into like nature, and that's why they're always like this sort of blissful, like it's humming. It didn't go away, but it just like they sort of diffused it into different to everything, and I think that's so. Yeah, I really, the ones that do it successfully, the other ones are kind of like lying or just so.
All right.
I'm not kidding, Bennett. I do think this.
Okay, all right. Well, that's it. A very interesting belief, my friend. Well, let's. All right. So the people who take the drug with the side effect that removes their sexual attraction, your worry is that they would just be blobs who would have no motivation and would not achieve.
I know, and it sounds a little silly saying
a lower
that,
quality of life. Okay, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's just take that as a given. And now this other side effect that I'm proposing that makes them super horny and promiscuous, and they're cheating on their wives, and they're wrecking families
in general.
That seems like more damaging to society to me.
I wanted to disagree that they're like cheating. I'd like to think they found someone, but like if you are, and that's part of it, is that monogamy is difficult, then they're taking more high risk behaviors in general. You're right. Yeah. Like it is more hectic. So I guess it is more immoral. Yeah. Yeah.
But would you still? But do you think the drug should still be produced?
No. If it's going to do more, then no. No. Or I believe it. No, I shouldn't say it shouldn't be produced. It should just. I just give more caution about educating on side effects, and like maybe not as gung ho about putting it out there everywhere. Like it's like more of a specialized option that after seeking, someone's really pushing like, what are my options here? I don't want to be gay. Like then like that becomes an option instead of like getting commercials pumped in churches buying bags of it or whatever, or sending it to you on your 13th birthday or whatever. I could just imagine stuff like that. Like yeah.
What if the side effect was that when you take it, it causes severe pain for one day, just a single day, and the pain is similar to like childbirth level of pain, so significant amount of pain for one single day?
That's a good question. And with no lasting effects.
Yeah, no lasting effects other than you remember being in a lot of pain.
Yeah. The potential trauma of that, I don't think it changes my calculation too much, other than like we haven't talked about age of taking it, but like to what degree can the person understand the risk they're signing up for? Because that's really it. To what degree can I? That's a very comprehensible thing you just told me. A lot of pain, one day, no side effects. Like it's like someone. So when someone can comprehend the risk they're taking, then I'm like all for them making their own decision.
Yeah, I agree.
So bring it to market.
What if the side effect was that it causes a chemical change to your hair follicles that makes your hair naturally rainbow colored and it incompatible with dyes, so it can't be dyed or anything, but it makes you very flamboyant.
It's a marker that says I used to be gay.
Yes.
Like is what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
right.
And now everyone knows I'm unnaturally straight.
Yeah, basically. Again,
it falls under the same category of I can comprehend
you
it,
can
like bring it to market. Yeah, you can make your decision. You emit very floral like
yeah, right. You're like a embodied
sweat
scented
flowers.
Candle. Right. All right, I've got two more categories for you. So let's put aside the side effects. Let's imagine there are no side effects again. So that was just a sidebar. Should the government regulate and control this drug's use? So like a controlled substance like cocaine or whatever. Or is it okay for it to be widely distributed? And then kind of as a corollary, if the government is controlling it, should they put it in the drinking water prophylactically, kind of like they do with fluoride, just to prevent homosexuality from appearing? Yeah, the people who already are gay, maybe there's some way they can avoid this or something. So it won't
water purifier.
Yeah, whatever. So it won't wreck their families or whatever. But going forward for the rest of humanity, This will essentially be kind of like, we eliminated like polio and stuff. It'll just be kind of a non-issue because we're taking this prophylactic drug.
Wow. Yeah. I don't think it's from my perspective, it's not a governmental imperative to do it. And so like I guess I'm more comfortable. Maybe I'm taking the wimpy position of it's just like let the market decide and let people take it if they want and not if they want. And that I don't think we're at the status where it's like an imperative that the government needs to. I don't know how harmful, especially with the access to this drug. Like I'm just uncomfortable sitting here saying that like gay people cause a ton of harm to society. But on the collective, you want a healthy heterosexual society. So if you can just for future generations, like weed out the gay people, or like we're not weeding out the people. That's the thing is we have to keep in mind. It sounds like you're talking about some sort of genocide. You're just saying it's not like you take the group of people and you throw them off a cliff. It's more just like as people grow up, we're ensuring that they are straight.
Yeah, I mean, look, imagine that this was an anti-cancer drug, no side effects, and it's just this chemical that's added to the water, and it prevents cancer from popping up in your life, going forward. That seems like a no-brainer, right? That would be in everyone's interest to avoid this damaging or suffering-causing condition.
Right.
You're not killing all the people that currently have cancer or have had cancer. You're not genociding them or throwing them off cliffs or whatever. You're just preventing this problem from occurring in the future.
I guess I would entertain that, but I also, since it's just a one-time use,
Okay, so would you prefer it be, a vaccine that's on the vaccine schedule that you get when you're an infant?
My preference would be that, and you could opt out if you felt.
So you just kind of have this uncomfortable feeling about stuff in the water.
No, I get uncomfortable with like. I don't equate it to precisely just like it's this disease to be rid of. Like I equate it more like features. I'm more inclined to treat it like features, but I guess like blonde hair, blue eyes, or something. And like I don't like men. I don't like.
Well, blonde hair and blue eyes is not a behavior. It has no behavioral implication except for blondes are kind of dumb. Just kidding. There's no behavioral implication there, and so I struggle with this while coming up with this situation. Like it's hard to find a really great analog, to kind of present similar analogies. And the best one is, at least to my mind, something like anxiety or depression, some other behavioral disorder that it puts you in some minority category, it has behavioral implications, and it generally makes your life worse, right? You undergo some kind of suffering. Not everyone, but most people undergo some additional difficulty.
Are we linking it to the depression and stuff? If it's literally just being attracted to the same sex, like it's harder for a lot of reasons socially,
right?
Because you're identifying and you're like saying I'm a minority status and and that creates a sort of different an othering, right? By saying,
I think it gets into difficult territory that we don't conclusively know the answers to. We could speculate, but that makes us wrestle with the origin question.
But like on an individual level, just liking or being attracted to the same sex just does no harm to me. Now on the societal level, if everyone did that, we wouldn't have a society.
Okay,
so
well let's think
that's
of it.
What I mean is like,
does on an individual level being attracted to children cause harm? I mean, there's another sexual attraction-based, behavior-based, quote-unquote disorder.
It could, and I would say, just being attracted, but acting upon it, it could and does, and that's a power dynamic issue though too, or like taking advantage of
Okay, fair.
Vulnerable
so
population.
there's a difference, right? Yeah.
Versus like two mutual people electing not to populate the planet. I mean, it's like it's not someone straight. If they're straight and they don't decide not to populate the planet, I don't think they're like immoral. You know, so just if you're just saying a same-sex attraction, it's like I don't, and we're not talking about some of the associated cultural things. It's just like it doesn't land for me as like harming at all. So treating it a little bit like a disease like doesn't fit for me. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes sense. I imagine a lot of people have that perspective.
Because I'm extracting it from a lot of like cultural things that we have about like association with identity, and it's who I am, and we start doing all those things and like mapping out. You can say like for instance, your life is tougher statistically if you are gay, for sure. So like if you have a son or daughter, it seems to me that you would want them to have the least stressful path forward. So you want to you want them to be straight because that's like a major factor in like having a less stressful path through life. So yeah. So like individually, like I might like give it to Cosmo for early on,
right.
Assuming no ramifications. Like I would want to do that, but I don't know about like just insisting. Like I think factoring in how much harm is done is like difficult for me to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be some sort of mandated thing, I guess is what I'm saying.
All right. Last category of question. All right. So this is the most interesting one, I think. What if instead of reversing homosexuality, the medication induced homosexuality? So now it's not an anti-gay drug. It is a makes you gay drug. So how does that change? So all of your answers, let's re-examine quickly. You're in the North Carolina wilderness. The guy hands you the briefcase. He says, listen, I've come up with this drug that makes you gay. Please distribute it to the drug companies. Does that change?
Yeah, do I even pass that along? It's powerful. The harm it could cause. I might. I mean, like, I would have to. I'd sit there and I'd go, but like he's tapped into something like so wildly powerful. They need to be able to explore this in the sciences. So I might pass it along, but I also feel strongly that like it's terrible. This is a terrible thing. It's more just like someone inventing a. You're right. It's like that goes to like an airborne, like some powerful weapon. It's like, oh, like this is powerful. The science could learn from how freaking powerful this is. But if I could go back and stop, the idea of the splitting of the atom or whatever that leads to the A bomb and all and hydrogen bomb and all these horrible things, like if I could stop it, maybe I should. So I'm inclined to not want to pass it forward, to be honest. I would really wrestle with the idea: is that could this benefit society? Or is there like some angle to this groundbreaking, science that's going to help in other areas? And so I'd want to pass it forward just because I'm so limited in my knowledge. But if it was truly not going to, if you could tell me right now in the hypothetical, it's not going to lead to other things, it's literally just this drug, I think I would say no. I would not pass it forward. And just, sorry, old man. Like, no.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I agree with that. It made me think, like, when I thought of this twist on it, it made me think, what if this drug was in the wild? And think about how crazy the world would be, right? Like, if you imagine the new category of crimes that would exist with this drug. Like a woman, gets cheated on, and so she slips the anti-straight pill into, her her cheating boyfriend's food or her husband's food or whatever, and now he's gay. Like, how would this crime be handled in the courts? Like,
China puts it in all our water, and we all drink it. It's a one-time, can't reverse it. And now, like, our population, they killed us basically, but they went and we had to sit there and look at each other and go, well, our society, like our social, like,
yeah, right. Done. Like, imagine the ISIS or terror, terrorism, and instead of like killing people, you're just like turning them all gay, making them
It's like the 30-year plan. It's like everyone is gay, and now we can't reproduce or won't reproduce. I guess we still could. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Imagine now the campaign's like, look, it's happened to us all. Like 80% of Americans have consumed this water and are gay now. But like, do you want our society like do this? Is like Uncle Sam wants you like to sleep with someone of the opposite sex, and
Yeah, I
please
imagine-
keep our nation going. These campaigns, these straight campaigns,
Straight campaigns,
and like
yeah.
straight pride. Like America gets really invested in straight flags and like really promoting it, hoping to convince people to just do it so our society can exist. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, wow.
Really funny.
Really weird. I imagine there would be a lot of artificial,
Insemination stuff. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right, that kind of thing.
Oh man, yeah, a lot of that I think. Yeah, and then like relationship with women, then like all these gay like all the pressure, like oh weird, yeah, like it could get more dystopian
Gosh,
and bad
think-
for women.
yeah,
like,
well,
you
think
know,
about-
like
How bad the world would be if, I mean, like relationships between the sexes are already fraught and have been for a few decades, ever since feminism really took off.
and
like,
that's when we want each other generally. You know,
yeah,
we
right,
want
exactly.
each
Now
other.
imagine that you have no need whatsoever for the opposite sex. Like I just don't see that going over well.
Me neither. A battle of the sexes would actually become so severe, like because the reason gay men like hang out with women right now is like it's all culturally being. It's something about minority status and
Yeah,
the
right.
women being more like accepting generally, and or I don't know, a lot of this stuff. When that would go away, I think, and it would just be like it'd get harsh and nasty fast, and like men would win like and well, I mean just physically, and we already have the infrastructure of like it's just like it wouldn't go well. Women would be, and it'd be like, but we still want our babies, and so like gross yeah.
Let's imagine that this anti-straight drug existed, but because it's so powerful and potentially society ruining and everything, it's tightly guarded, like controlled substance, very difficult to manufacture.
Yeah.
So it's not like meth labs or anything, and the government, regulates it. Are there any circumstances under which this drug should be used? Like, what
To turn someone gay.
What are legitimate cases for this drug's administration, if any?
I'm thinking. I don't know that there is one. Which is part of why I would destroy it. But like, because you think about these like chemical castrations and the utility on like pedophiles or people that are out
Right,
there,
right.
multiple rape cases and
Yes,
stuff. And
that's what I was
seem to be-
thinking too. Yeah.
So I was trying to think if, but this doesn't
just-
do that. This
it just changes the
your
target,
energies
right?
that yeah, and that's not okay. So it's not useful for that. If a man is so fertile, or like, is that the right for like if a I don't if a woman's had too many babies but she wants to enjoy her
Why would
it's just really like hard to no, I don't think there's a really a good case.
So in that case, that kind of puts a different framing on taking the briefcase, right? Like if there's legitimately no morally acceptable use for the drug, then it shouldn't
Destroying
exist,
the
right?
grief,
Then it
yeah.
shouldn't.
Then
I mean,
there's just,
although
like,
I find what you said persuasive. Like, truth exists whether we like it or not, right? And if there's a chemical that can change our sexual attraction, then understanding that truth is probably a good thing, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
then, there are downstream ramifications to that. Like, how do we use that truth and become comfortable with it? And maybe there's a right time for humanity to obtain these truths. You can make the same argument with nuclear power.
So
and
that's
everything,
why.
too.
Okay. So that's a really unique like why a potential like pitfall of capitalism is that it like isn't concerned with how to best and responsibly wield the truth. It's how to monetize the truth, like, so you gain it. How can we? And that is just scary.
Well,
that's
I
a
mean,
scary system.
Capitalism is amoral. It's not moral
Yes.
or immoral. It's simply people trading via their own free will. And so, in this situation where the guy hands you the briefcase, you are being handed the potential to make millions and millions of dollars right there, right? You now have this piece of truth that no one else has. But it's up to you as a moral agent in this amoral system to capitalize on it or not. And
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's amoral. It's just that, like, because but it does have a bent toward wanting to make
has
money,
nothing.
and so
capitalism is nothing.
yeah.
Has no
I will be careful
agency.
about that.
It's
Right.
human beings that are participating in the system who are either too weak-willed or too easily tempted by
I guess I'm just
the
concluding. I
prospect
think,
of money.
yeah, humans are generally a little immoral, and that money, like, so it like empowers our immorality.
Yeah,
So,
it facilitates it. Sure.
what what's maybe not as fun for you during these thought experiments is I always go to like, what do I not know, and which is not fun as a. Hopefully, it's good as a thinker, like
No,
as
that's
just
definitely.
someone who's
I
like,
mean, having that humility, I think, is important. So yeah, that's a perfectly
so like
fine
past.
thing to examine.
And that's the best example of like, would you pass this forward? And my answer is like, well, maybe, because there's things I don't know about it, that the insights into this powerful thing that could
Sure.
help science.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
but really, assuming for a second, let's just say no, that if you pass it forward, it will likely proliferate this thing, and that's what we're trying to discuss. It just makes it hard with thought experiments for someone like me is going, well, I like take it into all the different directions. Well, we don't know what it'll do, so we have to slow down. And if that's my answer frequently, that's boring. I don't know what it'll do.
Well,
Let's slow down.
but that's why it's my
that's why you
job
can push me.
to
Yeah.
to flesh out the situations and
Yeah.
really try to push you down into answering the questions.
Yes.
And I think I do an okay job at trying to.
You
get
do, and I don't
get
mean to be
places.
annoying. I'm trying to be
I
sincere.
don't
Just
find
go
it
like,
annoying.
okay.
I find it important to flesh out the nooks and crannies and acknowledge when we're making assumptions and acknowledge when we're putting something aside and moving forward anyway. It's important to do all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, good.
So
All right, that was a good one.
that's it. That's all. Pretty spicy, but
All right.
I think we
Spicy.
I think we determined. I think you said homosexuality is a bad thing unequivocally, and you're against it, and are going to try to bring that into the real
And I have a
world.
lot of distaste and disgust. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you nailed it.
All right. All right. Well, we settled that.
Do.
The end.
Bye.